Back now. At first glance, this might seem a little contradictory, but work with me and let's see if we can make some sense of this. I'm told that flexible working hours and where you choose to work in the future may be important factors in the fight against climate change. There's something called the Suburban Economic Study. It says there are environmental benefits of so-called flexible workplaces or workspaces in smaller towns, cities and suburban areas. So, let's make some sense of this. Office space expert Alan van der Westhuizen from Regis is with us on this Saturday morning. Welcome, Alan. Thank you. Maybe a good place to start is you telling me what a flexible workspace is.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thank you for the opportunity. Flexible workspace really just defines workspace that is by definition flexible, where you could work outside of a traditional office environment.
So we're talking about a garden shed or a coffee shop?
Well, and you can work in a outside of the main metropolitan areas in a small little office, and the flexibility in that is that it's not a long-term lease. A tenant can come in and rent flexible workspace or office space for an hour, they can rent it for a day, they can rent it for a year.
This is obviously suited at someone who is more in the single professional entrepreneurial space. I mean, you're not focusing this on a big corporate, for instance. It's the new economy that you're talking about.
Yeah, it appeals primarily to the small business sector, but we have a lot of enterprise clients as well. We have a lot of big corporates that might have a central office, and they look for smaller offices in smaller regional areas for their representatives to work from.
Providing you're going to find the efficiencies that you need.
Correct.
Because the argument that mitigates that often is we understand the spread, but the important thing is that you don't lose the thread of the business.
Yes.
It requires a different approach as far as management is concerned.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit now about why they are finding favour the world over, and to what extent that trend is being reflected in South Africa.
They're finding favour in the fact that it's just allowing people to work closer to home. It's allowing people to commute less. It's allowing people a bit more flexibility because technology has allowed people to be able to get online and work practically from anywhere in the world. So there's a lot of obvious advantages in that. There's time saving, there's carbon emission saving, there's value creation.
Don't go so far. The reason why you're here today is effectively to talk about that causal link between the flexible workspace, transport and carbon emission.
Correct.
And it's a different take on a very important subject. What studies have been done in that respect?
Well, Regis commissioned a study last year. As you mentioned, it's the Suburban Economic Study. And what it did is it sought to quantify the benefits and the effect of flexible workspace in these suburban locations that we're based. And it takes a number of factors that influence the reason that people do work in flexible workspace and the benefits of it, and then it puts a number to it. And what we've realized is that there's big benefits to reducing travel, reducing the hours that people have.
And the resultant positive consequence of that, of course, is carbon emission.
Correct.
So, are we seeing, where in South Africa might we be seeing a take-up, or is this spread right across the country, do you think?
Our presence is primarily in the metropolitan area. So our strategy at the moment, and not only in South Africa, globally, is to take our centres into the suburban locations, the non-metro areas. So outside of the main cities, so it's more easily accessible. And that uptake is really all over the country, but in areas where you would find a need, obviously, for office space and where there is office-intensive employees.
Alan, what do these new offices look like then?
They are very practical spaces that you can go into, and they would supply a desk, a chair, a telephone.
And the right IT infrastructure.
The Wi-Fi and IT infrastructure. They would have added benefits like receptionist services, all your office automation, your printing, courier services. And they range from a single office for a single person. They can go to multiple workstation offices. And they can go into, we call the co-working spaces, which has become very popular, where people sort of work in an open space, an open plan office, and they network with each other, and they also are able to sort of hot desk.
The networking aspect is also important. I know someone very well who works intensively as a consultant, but is at home most of the time. And I often say to this person, and I think you must be going stir crazy, just you and your kettle every morning. The opportunity is to network, but also perhaps productivity is increased if we have more human interaction, I guess. I'm not an expert, but one assumes that that's
But you
the
also
right
have
place,
a professional environment within which to operate. And if you need a meeting room, you may not have one at home, but you're able to rent a meeting room for an hour. Or have a boardroom. So all the advantages of having a traditional office are available to you, but you only pay for them and use them when you need them.
And just finally, is this an expensive process?
It's not an expensive process. In fact, studies have proved that it's more beneficial cost-wise for companies, because you're not shackled to a long-term lease. You're not paying onerous rental for space that's not being used all the time. It's the cost benefits are obvious, and a lot of companies are realizing this now.
And as you cleverly point out in the study as well, the environmental benefit is critical. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we wouldn't have even thought of that. Now that has become top of mind for so many individuals and so many organizations. Thanks for the insight, Alan. Appreciate it. Thanks.